This is the Enchantress, aka Honey Tea, also known as Yen's Star, Yenetta. Okay, what do I want to say? Okay, let me share something with you. Yesterday, I was doing my courier task, delivering, and I had to take a pit stop. And I went to get in my car, and my panoramic roof was open. Just enjoying as much nature as I could consume while driving. And so I noticed one bee. I was at a gas station, and I noticed that it was trying to go through my window. It wasn't just flying by. It kept bumping my window as if it was trying to get in the car. The passenger side of the window was down. And it just kept doing it over and over. And that's why it got my attention, because it looked like it was trying to get to me. And not in an aggressive manner. It was flying. It was very alluring. It wasn't aggressive. We had a neighbor that lived across the street that had beehives in his backyard. So I'm not foreign to bees. I'm not afraid of them. I don't care if they land on me or anything like that, but I noticed that demeanor and behavior was catching my attention. And then I noticed there was another bee. And I noticed that it was another bee. So it was about 3 bees right at my car's window. And so while the passenger side was down and I had to get back to my job, I began to leave, and the bees flew in my car. And I thought that was very interesting. Interesting enough to think about it a few times after it happened. And I was scrolling today, and someone had made a video, and they were speaking about crows. They live in the upper peninsula of the northern Americas, and they were saying how the crows were behaving, and they were behaving in a manner that they don't typically behave during this time of the year. And it got me to thinking. It got me to thinking about how we can be so sidetracked about things like work, like the type of work that I do, and in my personal business, that we don't really take the time to just stop and watch nature. So I attempt at least once a day to just spend an hour just sitting in nature, collecting as much information from nature that I can collect, and just to experience it. It all. I know something is going on. I really don't want to get into that part, but I'm going to share this with you. Sometimes I have the tendency to know or sense or have the proclivities to have an understanding about things that are to come. And during the pandemic, the latter end of the quote-unquote pandemic, and people were isolated and shut in, I had a dream, and the dream showed me some things, and it took me back to a dream that I had some 5 years before, where I was going to have to go through something, and I was going to have to go through some things that would isolate me. The isolation would be a result of choices that people around me would make, and because of those choices, it would create isolation for me. And in that dream, I was allowed to feel comfort that I had never felt before. And it told me that that would be my state when this isolation happens. And that because I was chosen for the situation and the experience, that I would not be alone. That whatever was connecting to me in that dream was letting me know that even though it was going to be an isolation, and it was going to send me in the form of a companion, and check this out, a feline, a cat, and it was going to send me that companion so that I would not be alone in this experience, and that I would also know that what I'm receiving in this dream was really true, because this life experience and the systems and the things that are created, the matrix, does not, how should I say, entreat these things. So sometimes it has to be visited when you're asleep. And so it showed me that I would receive this companion, to know that whatever it was that was communicating with me was going to allow its essence collectively to be placed in this feline, so that I would be reminded that I'm not alone, even when this physical life dictates that I am. And it also alerted me to know that this was it, and this was the one chosen. That this, it showed me in a dream, this cat. This cat was, it was a tabby, and so it had that grayish black, pattern going on. But in the middle of the forehead, it had an orange diamond, and it was shaped like somebody just drew it with an orange marker, and it was very distinct, but it was permanent. And so I woke up and I remembered that dream, and at that time I didn't have any, animals in at all, and I was living with my daughter and her two children, and so after that, I remember these things. I keep them. I don't think about it every day, but I don't dismiss it. And one day, she moved from one address to the other, and she moved to the new address so that we have more room. And when she moved, she was alerted by management that someone had left a cat. It was an orange cat, orange tabby, and that the cat wouldn't leave. And the cat would always come back. And they asked her, did she want the cat? And she said, yeah. And I remember I cried because I didn't want her to take on the responsibility of the cat, because I knew, because of my relationship with animals and nature, that the cat would be more my responsibility. And I just didn't want it. I was being selfish. And so I attempted to discourage her, and she was adamant, and she took the cat. Well, when the cat came, I said, that cat's pregnant. And she's like, no, it's not. I said, yes, this cat is pregnant. So a couple months passed, and it was obvious. And I knew at that point, dealt with animals since I was 4 or 5, delivered cats. Cats have come to me, stray cats have come to me in my neighborhood when I was 7, because they knew things about me and wanted me to be present at the delivery. And then this cat has issues, and she's trying to give birth to a kitten that apparently to me at 7 years of age is not normal, and she couldn't push the kitten out, and I had to help her. And when the cat comes out, it's conjoined with another cat. So this cat that my daughter had the same, attraction to me. And so I knew, how many days it takes for a cat to go through its full gestation period before they deliver. And one day my daughter wanted to take my grandchildren, to see the new movie that was out, animation. And I wasn't going to go. So she left me at home, and I was like, oh, this cat is going to have these kids. And she's like, no, she's not. So anyway, my daughter left, and the cat really didn't entreat us. You know, she would sit next to me for a few seconds and then get up and leave. You could tell that she wasn't really into us, but we were in her space. She would come and go. She know we would feed her. You know, if it was too cold and she wanted to sleep inside, she sleep inside. She did her own thing. And she only utilized us for what was convenient for her, and that was okay. So her name was Hira. My daughter named her Hira. And Hira came to me, and she kept wanting to get in my lap. And I was like, yeah, she's about to have these kittens. Because I've helped a cat, and I've monitored a cat delivering on many occasions. And so she got in my lap, and she started making that moaning, and I say she's in labor. So I went in my room, and I emptied out the bottom drawer, and I put her towels and bedding in there, and I put a drape over it so that she could have privacy. And I got me a pillow, and I laid down next to the spot because that's what she wanted me present. And she had her first moan, and she spit out a kitten. I picked it up, and it was this cat that looked, like it was black and gray. And I flipped it over to see what the sex was, and it was a female. And when I flipped her over to check her anatomy and make sure she was okay, I looked at the top of her head, and I saw something orange. And I took my finger and wiped it and spread out the fur, and it was the shape of a diamond. I knew then that I had to have this kitten. And so my daughter came home. She came home to 6 kittens. And I told her to check the forehead out because I had told her about the dream. And she knew that I was going to keep this cat. And that was almost 8 years ago. And for the past 6 months, I have endured circumstances that has isolated me. And in all of it, Diamond has been exactly what I was shown she would be, because I named her Diamond because of the orange diamond in her forehead. And it's been remarkable. So I watch her from time to time. And, people make a lot of videos talking about doomsday and something bad is going to happen and, people are going to starve, X, Y, and Z. Well, I'm not a scary person. I'm not fearful. That's just not my nature. And on top of that, the things that I've encountered in this lifetime that I have overcome, just strengthen me where I'm just not, scary. And definitely not afraid of the boogeyman. So, but that's not the case. This scenario. What I see is with everything, there's give and take. There's light and darkness. There's good and bad. We'll use those words. But in the middle of that is equilibrium and balance. So I know to be that middle ground in the midst of everything is where balance is. You know what I'm saying? So I was shown a war that took place years ago. And it was a quote unquote spiritual war. And the terrain was very familiar to me in the dream. Very familiar. And the soil was red. Now, I was born and raised in Mobile, Alabama, and we are known for having red clay dirt, and that's what it reminded me of. And in the dream was a war that was over, and the victors were on horseback pursuing the losers that were left and giving message to those that were allowed to be a part of the victory. And so they came across me and they were saying how I had the opportunity to share with others because I had made it and I was a part of the victory, that I could share with others and they could choose to accept or refuse. But if they accepted, then they would be a part of the victory. And those on horseback let me know that that window of opportunity was a very small window, and that window was closing. So there wasn't time for people to think about it. It was just a time for people to act. And after that, I began to go and share the story, and a few people came, but a lot of people were um, evaporated. I'll put it that way. And I continued to nomadically travel, and there wasn't really much resource materially. There was only what nature had provided. So what was prepared for those who were part of victory were care packages. That's what it was labeled in the vision and in the dream, care packages. And it's just like when you're in a war torn country and the government or the leaders get their air flight equipment and get these big packages, bundled up, and then they go and air flight them and drop it down. It was like that. It was showing me that it was focusing on me at that time because I had traveled, and it was showing me that there were care packages, very valuable care packages that were being dropped to me because I had become a part of victory and I had successfully done what I was supposed to do, and that they were labeled for me. No one could steal them, no one could take them away, but I was able to share them with anyone that I chose to. So, what does that all mean?